Good to go.
Okay, great. Well, hello everyone. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Right now, I'm really, first of all, looking forward to seeing all your faces when we get to the Q&A section. But today you're sitting in the Zoom room with students from around the country and in some cases around the world. And I'm really grateful that you all can be here today to learn more about our department. So before we get started, I just want to acknowledge that we know that college is a really big decision for you and for your family. It's a really big investment of time and of money. And we know as students that are interested in art and design that you have really big dreams and really big aspirations for your future and for your career and for your creative life. So we're here today to tell you about our program and to see if CCS might be a good fit for you. So what we'll do is we'll have about a 40-minute presentation from me and the rest of the faculty. We'll have April will do about a 5-minute presentation about admissions. We'll have a general Q&A, and then we'll have all the faculty from each section go into breakout rooms where you can meet with them and talk with them individually about our program. Because we're presenting 5 different programs, we could easily do a 30-minute presentation on each. We're not going to do that, but certainly each faculty member will be able to go more in depth if you have questions to learn about the area that they're teaching. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about our department, the Department of Craft and Material Studies. We're actually the oldest department at CCS. CCS was actually founded as the Detroit Society of Arts and Crafts in 1906 before it became a college. And at that time, its mission was to keep the ideals of beauty and craftsmanship alive in what was rapidly becoming an industrialized world. Let me switch slides here. That mission still runs through to today, but has been updated. Recently, we changed our name from crafts to craft and material studies. And what we're about is that we're dedicated to the traditional study of craft mediums and processes, but also experimental and cross-disciplinary processes, digital fabrication, industrial applications, and in contemporary art. And in our department, students will engage in discipline-making practices that touch on sculpture, functional objects, design, and decorative arts. So the reason that we added the term material studies to the name was to signal that our research agenda goes beyond just traditional media tools and techniques and points to a more contemporary and innovative approach to hands-on making. And I would say what does define our department is both a deep and a broad look at material traditions and tools, physical properties, cultural heritage, industrial applications, and contemporary uses. And what also defines our department is that we really explore these things through hands-on making. So the first thing that I want to talk about is careers. I think that there are really a lot of exciting and rewarding careers that a degree in craft and material studies prepares you for. And I want to put those up front because in our department, we make careers a priority, but I also want to kind of demystify and put your mind at ease that there are many career paths for graduates of this department. The first thing I want to talk about is entrepreneurship. There are so many alumni, I could make a list 5 times this long, that have started successful businesses, design firms, production studios, locally and nationally. And I think that our students make great entrepreneurs because they know their business really intimately. They understand everything from manufacturing to design. They also have the ability to think critically about what they're doing and leverage resources. And then most importantly, they have a vision for their work that stands out as being unique and creative and desirable by clients. So here's just a short list of some businesses that have been founded by our alumni, including Parts and Labor NYC, that's the image on the right top at Design Forum in New York. And Playground Detroit is a contemporary gallery in Detroit, and that's the image on the right bottom. Another career path is nonprofit and education. Our graduates, because of their passion for what they do, their material knowledge, and their professional abilities, they've been able to rise into leadership positions at some very prestigious institutions, including places like the Henry Ford Museum. Josh Wojcik, he started out as a production glassblower there, and he now manages all of their craft programming. Brent Swenson is also working at the Flint Institute of Art. And Andrea Oleniziak, she is actually managing this $40 million project at Kent State University that's called the Design and Innovation Hub. It's a really exciting project. So among the other people listed here, this has been a really successful path for graduates of our department, in addition to paths that have to do with education. And that includes K through 12 education, like Taylor Childs, but also museum education, workshop, and classes at local studios. Another career path that I think is in some ways unique to CCS and unique to Detroit is careers in industry. Here we have a list of some students, most of whom have graduated in the past 5 years, that are working at major corporations locally and nationally. So Jenna Van Fleetering, that's the image of her on the top right. She's been a materials designer at Nike for the past 5 years. And what I want to highlight to you about Jenna is that when you see that image of her, that's her portfolio work from her senior show. It's these beautiful expanding garments, really interesting exploration of wearables, sculptural form, and materials. And that portfolio is what made her very competitive to be a materials designer at Nike. And what I want to highlight as well in the image underneath by Haley Callahan, who's currently a clay model or a GM. Haley made really wonderful vessel work, sculptural forms. She did a lot of research into glazes and crystalline glazes. These students and their expressive portfolios were quite competitive for industry jobs based on the knowledge that they learned in our department. In other words, what I'd like to demystify is you might think, or sometimes people do think that the only way to get a job at Nike is to design shoes, or only way to get a job at GM is to design cars. But in fact, there's a whole range of skill sets, many of which you learn here, that would make you competitive for different parts of these industries. And lastly, I want to talk about grad school. We've had many students, and again, these are mostly students who've graduated in the last 5 years, who've been accepted, and many who've received some very generous scholarships to top grad programs. So places like Tyler School of Art in Philadelphia, Cranbrook Academy of Art in Bloomfield Hills, University of Madison, Wisconsin, those are all places that our grads are going to pursue their MFAs. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about some different partnerships at CCS. And basically this section of the presentation is to tell you about how we prepare you for these careers, both on the making side and on the networking side of things. And this is a really important part of our program that we're continuing to grow and pursuing new partnerships with businesses and organizations nationally and locally. So the first one I want to highlight here is a partnership we did with Mend on the Move. Mend on the Move is a nonprofit that employs survivors of domestic violence to create jewelry from salvaged auto parts and then sell that jewelry to then fund the organization and fund the workers. So our metalsmithing and jewelry program collaborated with them to develop a series of designs that these workers could be working on. And so they just did that presentation, had a lot of really beautiful and innovative approaches to working with these repurposed auto parts. It was really successful project for both the organization and for our students to come at the material in a new way and get involved in an opportunity that has to do with community building and social justice. This is a sponsored project from last year. Sponsored projects are when a company comes to CCS and wants to partner with a class to develop products for their business. And here, Guild and Grace worked with our fiber and textiles area to create different types of removable wallpaper. So the students in the course that they partnered with researched different trends, developed themes, and made custom print and pattern solutions for Guild and Grace. one of the exciting things about this project was that students were able to travel to New York City. They attended trade shows and design studios to get inspiration for the project. And they also worked with the professionals at the design firm, giving them professional presentations to show their work. Another sponsored project that we've done is with Shinola. Those of you who are from Detroit, I'm sure, are very familiar with Shinola, but this was actually a collaboration between our department and the product design department, where students designed watches and then actually crafted the prototypes. So these are prototypes that were crafted by students in our department. And as you know, Shinola manufactures all their watches in Detroit. And so the knowledge of working with the materials is really integral to how they develop their products. So we were able to be a part of that. And this is a sponsored project the glass area did with Moss Architects and John Hogan as the lead designer. And so we worked with them to produce and hot cast a series of interlocking bricks that were made into this 12-foot tall tower at the Chicago Architectural Biennial. And this was a really exciting and fun project to think about manufacturing processes at a large scale, think about scaling prototypes that have to fit and have a very small tolerance with a material that's very challenging to control, and was a really great outcome and a really great learning opportunity for students. So these are just a few of the many kind of sponsored projects that we've done and are pursuing, and something that we're going to continue to work on with different artists, designers, and businesses. Another way that we're preparing students for careers is through internships. I could present to you a laundry list of internships, but I'm just going to present a couple of our most recent. On the left, you see Chris Shank Studio. Chris is a contemporary furniture designer. He's local, but he's known nationally and worldwide. We've had several students going through his studio in Hamtramck to assist him as interns. On the right, we have April Wagner. She's an alum of CCS, and she's also had students on a yearly basis intern with her in her glass production studio in Pontiac. And on the bottom, Salt Textile. Last summer, we had 2 students from the fiber area intern at Salt Textile Studio, where they're developing natural dyes for hand-woven textiles. And these have all been really informative experiences for our students. The next thing I'm going to cover are some of our special programs. These are just parts of our curriculum that make I think the experience of coming to our department and getting an education here really unique. These are things that we offer at CCS that you don't see offered at many other places, and what I think are really exciting initiatives. This first one I'm going to talk about is our digital fabrication minor. Coming from a program that has in the past been very traditional, we've always made digital design and modeling a priority in our curriculum, and we've actually developed a minor for students that are really excited about that pursuit. One really great thing about this minor is that 2 of the courses of the 5-course sequence are already required. So students in our program only have to complete 3 additional courses to complete the minor. And when you're studying digital fabrication here, not only are you looking at ways to have digital outputs through things like 3D printing and laser cutting and CNC milling, you're thinking about how those tools can work with the materials that we're using. For instance, using the ceramics 3D printer, using the CNC milling machine to mill graphite molds to cast glass into, using the laser cutter to cut wood to form furniture. So you're using these tools for outputs that utilize traditional craft materials. And here on the right, we just have a rendering from one of our courses of a really, really crazy piece of furniture. You'll see more of the students' work later. Another program that we have that's really unique to CCS in Detroit is our Professional Automotive Certificate program, Professional Automotive Modeling Certificate in Clay Modeling. So these are 2 courses that you can take to earn the certificate. And this is a direct pipeline to clay modeling positions at GM. We just had GM come visit us last Thursday, and they said that they are going to be hiring 40 clay modelers very soon. When we push them to say, is clay going out of style and digital modeling coming back in style? They said, no, clay is here to stay. Clay modeling is a really important part of automotive design. And there's really a need for modelers, people that know how to use the material, to be a part of that. And so that's a really unique kind of niche market here in Detroit that we're preparing students for. Another, what I would call kind of special course that we're developing is our Crafts Business Incubator course. We're going to be running that course for the first time in the winter. And this is a course where students will actually be starting their own small business in the course. So there are other business practices courses that you take at CCS, but in this course, juniors and seniors will actually be able to develop a production line, think about how they're going to market it, execute that marketing plan, think about how they're going to distribute it, whether it's at galleries or through e-commerce, and actually kind of get some hands-on experience, what it feels like to start your own business while they're in school with the support of the institution and the resources of the institution. So we're really excited to see the outcomes of that. The image here is of a local gallery, Simone de Sousa. So she's a really influential gallerist in the area, and she has two spaces. She has kind of a white cube gallery space, and then this is her edition space. And so this is definitely kind of an aspirational space that we think about artists who are making editions of things and going into production and selling things, but also really beautiful items that kind of function at a high level. The last thing I'm going to talk about, well, not the last thing, but as for special programs, is some of the exhibitions that we've worked on. Many of our classes, well, not many, but sometimes our classes do end in person and now virtual exhibitions. And this has been a really exciting and fruitful outcome for many of our classes. So this image here is from the Radical Methods of Furniture Design class. They took the final products of their show and had an opening at Pops Packing. What you can see here, these are actually lighting, and you can sort of see these are made from melted plastic spoons. So this was a really beautiful piece and beautiful outcome. And you can see a very populated opening. People were excited to come see the work from around Detroit. And we were excited to display this publicly. This is another exhibition from the glass installation class. So this was installed in an well, it was an old television production company. Now it's an event space called the Jam Handy. And because this was an installation class, this was a really great opportunity for students to make work that was large scale and experiential, for people to be able to walk through and walk around it and open that work up to the public. So this was an exhibition from last year that was really fun and really successful. And lastly, in March, when we had to pivot to online learning, one of the really great things CCS did was in the summer when cases were down and things were a bit safer, they allowed students to come back in the studio and work. They allowed students to come back and take workshops, all of it, free of charge. And one of the workshops was taught by Jack Craig, and it was a follow-up to the course he taught in the winter, Sourcing from the City. And so when those works were completed, he created a virtual exhibition of the work that you can visit online at our website, which is ccs-craft and material studies. So you can see that there. And well, so I'm just going to go back for 1 second since we started talking about COVID-19. I'm sure that for everyone, that's a big question. What does an education look like under the current circumstances? And I just briefly wanted to share with you what we've been doing at CCS. Right now, all of our studios are open and we're back on campus full-time. Students can be back on campus anytime. Now, everything that we can do virtually, we are. All our liberal arts are virtual. All of our digital classes are virtual. Some of our in-person classes have virtual elements. But I have to say, it's been really great to see students utilizing the studio, even when some of their classes are online. I feel like they've gotten to take advantage of the studio. They've been more focused than ever because they're socializing less. And I have to also really commend the students, faculty, and staff because everyone has been taking all the precautions to be really safe in the studio. And so I would say certainly our area is committed to being hands-on and in the studio as much as possible and doing whatever we can to make that possible for students. so that they have their hands on tools and materials. Now I'm going to kind of get into the backbone of the program here, talking a little bit about the faculty and the curriculum. So these are the section heads of the program. We're all here today. Ebby, Jeremy, Jack, me, and Tom. And these are a list of our adjuncts and some of the areas that they teach in. And I would say that we just have a really great roster of faculty around the board. I'm really proud to be working with all of them. They have a ton to teach students. I learn from them all the time. I think that they're really a diverse group in terms of, we have people that are fine artists, people that work in industry, people who are designers, people who are on their own business. We have faculty that are academics. I think we have diversity in terms of race, in terms of gender, in terms of sexual orientation. And I feel like as a whole, our faculty functions really well to serve really diverse needs of our students in really diverse areas of interest. And another thing that I think supplements our faculty is our visiting artist roster. So visiting artists, curators, and gallerists. You know, each area is very active, I would say, in bringing in people that can expand students' perspective about what they're doing, be it doing demos, artist talks in the studio, definitely having curators come in to talk about their perspective on contemporary art and design, and also having gallerists come in. They're giving students really useful professional feedback, and those students getting exposed and beginning to build those relationships while they're already in school. So these are a couple images of some visitors that we've had, but we certainly have a much more extensive list. You know, Sarah, I think you have a link to some of our info sheets. So for those of you who are interested in reading more specifically, we just have these one-pager info sheets on each area that tells you about facilities, alumni, visiting artists. And that's something that we'll put in the chat for you if you're interested. So the next thing I'm going to talk a little bit about is our curriculum. So firstly, I'll talk about our discipline-specific curriculum. So every student in craft and material studies will declare an area of emphasis. So in other words, a major. Technically you major in craft and material studies, but it feels like a major. You select ceramics, fiber and textiles, furniture, glass, or jewelry and metalsmithing. And within that specific discipline, there are a couple different types of courses you'll take. You'll take your required courses. That's 3 to 4 fundamental courses that every student needs to complete. You know, if you're like me in glass blowing, it's like beginning and intermediate glass blowing and beginning casting and cold working. Very fundamental classes, and that's true in every area. The other group of courses you'll take are your elective courses. One really great thing about our curriculum is that you have 7 elective courses that you can take. And we are very, very open about what those electives might be. They might be electives in your specific discipline, but they might be in another part of the school. So for instance, a furniture person, somebody who's majoring in furniture, might choose to take courses in product design or interior design. Someone who's majoring in fiber might choose to take courses in fine art or illustration or fashion accessories or all 3. So through our elective courses, you really have an opportunity to chart your path through different disciplines and areas of the school to kind of create an experience that really serves your personal interests in your future, in your creative future, in the direction that you want to go. And then lastly, the real core courses in our curriculum are our major studio courses. So in other words, junior and senior studio. In those courses, you're going to be developing your personal body of work with your really authentic vision, with mentoring and guidance from the faculty. Those generally aren't technique specific courses or topical courses. They're really about helping students develop their original and authentic and unique voice, and ultimately their senior and thesis body of work in those courses. The other part of your curriculum is a curriculum that's shared by the whole entire craft department. So this consists of classes that we feel that are outcomes that every student should be having. So basically, these courses cover digital design and modeling proficiencies, the history of crafts, material research methods, and portfolio development and professional practice. And we, I think, have seen since we've implemented this really serves students across the board. Students who didn't know that they thought they hated digital modeling are suddenly, coming up with tons of Rhino models to show their work. Students have a great online web and Instagram presence that they're all really benefiting from. History of crafts, people have really started to love and integrate that information into their work, as well as senior seminar. So this has been a really positive change, I think, for us and for students. So that brings me to the end of my kind of general presentation about the craft department, craft material studies department. So I'm going to hand it over to Ebby to tell us a little bit about ceramics, and I'll just work the slides here for you.
I'll unmute myself. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us here today. I'm going to talk a little bit about the ceramics department. So I first started working in clay my senior year in high school. So I started off in the material in the medium at a similar place as a lot of you all now. I got my BFA in ceramics from RISD and then my MFA here in Michigan from the Cranbrook Academy of Art, which is where I first fell in love with the city of Detroit. I would say my art practice encompasses mainly sculpture, exploring themes that blend concepts of craft culture and design. I feel like what makes CCS Ceramics unique is our focus on both technical and conceptual instruction through the practices and perspectives of our really strong family family and faculty who are all in their own right artists. So we have Henry Chrisman and John Geiger, who are here with us right now, as well as Sean Evans, as well as being in close conversation with the city of Detroit and having all these facilities and resources right here in the city of Detroit. In a COVID-free era, that would include engagement of places like Public Pottery, the DIA, the Scarlet Club, various galleries, and other arts facilities here in the city of Detroit. That's on the damper right now because of COVID, but I'd like to say that the program itself, through field trips, visiting artists and such, very much exists in conversation with the city, which I think is significant. So students get both a broad array in instruction on traditional, experimental, and technology-driven processes with exposure to ceramic art history, contemporary ceramics, and professional development. I would say that as artists, you all become entrepreneurs, and that's going to look different for each and every single one of you. Our courses cover clay and glazed chemistry, hand building, the casting, pottery, other special topics, and more. We have a strong array of kiln options, including electric, gas, soda, salt, raku, and wood firing kilns. I guess you can jump to the next slide. All of our majors, starting from your sophomore year and possibly from your freshman year, get a dedicated desk space. I truly believe that the community that you developed with your other classmates, the kind of feedback that you get in critiques, the friendships that you form with other majors is also a big part of your experience here at CCS. I guess with my last few slides, just wanted to feature the work of one of our seniors, Mia Van Hem. So Mia Van Hem started off with a really strong interest in working with the body, as you can see here with this piece, really strong hand building skills that she's now kind of developing further and further as she's working more and more life size. Also a strong presence on Instagram and apparently TikTok, which seems to be all the rave these days with ceramicists. So I'm just looking forward to what she's going to go off to. She's very independently kind of driven in her practice, so it's been interesting to see how she's been pushing herself in the COVID era. Big fan of her work, and I think she has a bright future ahead of her. And I guess with that, I will pass on to the next speaker.
Hello, my name is Jeremy Noonan. I'm the head of fiber and textiles at CCS. I have to piggyback everything that Ebby was talking about regarding our students and the facilities and community. of the Crafts and Material Studies program. I think what makes the fiber and textiles area really strong and unique is that it really focuses at the intersection of fine art and design practice. A lot of our students will come into the program, thinking they really understand where they want to go and how they want to make their work, but it's really about the exposure to the history of, textiles and contemporary art that really feeds and exposes them to new ways of thinking. Regarding our facilities, I think the facilities also kind of nurture those investigations too. We have a fabulous sewing studio where students will take a variety of classes and learning about construction techniques for sculptural forms. We also have a really great screen printing studio where students understand about image making, screen printing. They use this room for a variety of things. Loud music, parties, socializing. But really, this is where the kind of the hub of things kind of happen. Maybe we can go to the next slide, Kim. We also have a really great digital surfacing lab. So students that are interested in kind of taking maybe fine art imagery that they've made to scan it in, amend it, beautify it, make different types of pattern. They use the digital surfacing lab to output those ideas to materials. Of course, they'll take those materials and make something out of them, either a fine art object or something functional. We also have weaving studios where students are exposed to, the idea of how to make cloth. Cloth has been around a very long time. I don't know what this format would look like if none of us had clothes on, but I think that we should know that, materials as part of our daily life, and understanding that history through making is really crucial. We also have a really fabulous dye lab, which has been revamped about 4 years ago. And in that space, students will custom dye different materials. They could dye traditional things like yarn and fabric, but they might dye unusual things like plastic dolls or feathers or materials that they find within their studios. Maybe we can go to the next slide. I have to say, this is a really amazing senior that I have. I met her in her junior year. She's a transfer student, Kate Bickle. She was really interested in surface design and image making. And so she, first started out taking some screen printing classes, and then she started taking those screen prints and drawings and turning them into digital patterns. So she's really familiar with navigating the digital landscape, both to communicate flat designs, but also how to wrap those onto objects to show people how her designs are applied to the real world. Maybe we go to the next slide. And then in her junior year, she's kind of shifted focus a little bit. So in her junior year, she was focusing on surface design, image, and color. And in her senior year now, she's focusing on weaving, structure, and material language. And so it's kind of shifting a bit for her. I think the thing that's really strong about her is she's learning a variety of transferable skills that she can utilize as a fine artist, but also integrate into a design practice, which might allow her to work for a great company developing their product. I'm not exactly sure where she wants to go, but I think she has all the skills to do what she wants to do. So I'm going to leave it at that.
Thank you. Jack, you're up here.
All right. Sorry, I was just figuring out where my mute button was. Hello, everyone. I'm looking forward to meeting all of you. I'm Jack Craig. I'm section head of furniture. I'll tell you a little bit about myself first, maybe. I make furniture for a living, and I have a design studio in the city, and I exhibit my furniture through a gallery in New York, Salon 94 Design. And my practice features a lot of sort of invented processes and new ways of making. And I mention that because I think that very much coincides with what the craft department here as a whole, but also specifically furniture, is trying to do. We basically take a very traditional foundation in technique, sort of traditional craft of woodcraft and metal fabrication. As you can see from our facilities, there's an extensive wood shop there. I'm not going to read through all those machines, but you can basically do anything you want in the wood shop. And the same is true of the metal shop, which has got every method of sort of bending, shaping, welding, even casting there. And that's where your foundation will be. But I say this with, this is sort of where it sort of starts for you, because you will learn those traditional techniques, and then they are the springboard for ways to kind of tamper with those traditional methodologies. So that may mean hacking a process that is very traditional, or it may mean inventing brand new methods. This is a slide from the current exhibition that Kim mentioned before, where students were tasked to basically, when we were locked in our bedrooms, basically during COVID, they had to find new ways to execute. And this is a student that took a juicer from his kitchen and used it at, reorganized how it was going to work to wrap metal together and create new forms that way. I think that mirroring what some of the other faculty have said, the department really does operate in this space between art, craft, and design, and in doing so, it sort of operates in a global discourse of contemporary practice. And since I've been doing this, and it's been I guess 10 or so years by now, I think the American design scene and craft by extension has really the landscape has changed and has really exploded. And I think there's a ton of opportunity that has sort of come of that, which I'll touch on some later. We're looking, I guess I'm just realizing we have a slide up about some of the student work. So maybe I'll talk about that first. This is a current student, and we'll go through, I guess, his progression as in terms of development. And he's kind of, gone through all the steps. And I think if you look at his first projects, there's a lot more sort of material discovery and just, I guess, wild and reckless ways of working with things that slowly you'll see them sort of mature as he progresses. They get more wild, as you can see, and that's hard to believe. Like looking at some of those first ones, the first ones looked wild enough. These are even crazier, and he starts to integrate some new tooling in there in addition to the material exploration. It's really a collage of anything and everything he can think of. It's the kitchen sink. So what has happened for Tomas, which has been really sort of exceptional, is that he is currently basically prepping for a major exhibition with a major gallery in New York. And I wish I could say that happens often, but he's unique. So this is an incredible opportunity for him, and it's been great working with him. Very exciting, very excited for him. So maybe I'll also touch on here some of the things that we do in the program. As you can see from Tomas's work, we encourage all kinds of alternative processes and new ways of working. It's very rigorous. It's very iterative in the approach, and it's all hands-on. And I think that these skill sets are what's sort of will guide you to be able to work across multiple disciplines when you exit. And Kim talked about that in the beginning. This is definitely true for furniture. You will learn how to build, and you will learn how to think. And students who exit this program have gone on with careers in design build for interiors, material research, in major companies, but also being at the forefront of sort of couture furniture in the design world. Um, as Kim talked about, we participated in Detroit's Month of Design. I don't know if many of you know about this or gone to see some of those events, but I'll talk about it for a minute here. I think that this is an event that's growing in momentum, and it's all tied to the fact that Detroit has been sort of designated this UNESCO City of Design. It's the only American city to have been given this designation. And there's a component of the college here that has been instrumental in that designation, Design Corps. And it's all right here in our backyard. As Evie said, we are in the backyard, literally, of the Detroit Institute of Art. But there's also a growing list of artists and design studios and galleries, all sort of emerging at arm's length here in the city. And so I think that this is all part of the soup and what it means to come to CCS.
Thank you, Jack. So I'm going to talk a little bit here about glass. You know, I absolutely, firstly, just kind of want to echo what's been said by the other faculty about the value of being here in Detroit. I mean, that is one really unique thing about CCS. We're right here in the middle of Midtown. And I think that the creative energy of the city, that being artists that are showing locally here, sometimes, local shows are also national shows. The creative energy that's flowing around, I think, is just this really incredible resource for students who are in school. And also it's a really incredible city to be able to stay and build relationships because there is so much opportunity. But I'm going to go ahead and talk about glass a little bit here. Glass is, I don't know if we have any glass aspirational majors here at the meeting today, but glass is a material that is just really magical. It's amorphous, it's transparent, it magnifies, and it's literally all around us all the time in our phone screens and our lighting, our car windows. And it just has this ability to shape our world and our perspective on the world in a really unique way. I'm really passionate about the material and different ways of working with it and forming it. It's a literal amorphous blob at all times that needs to be controlled. And so the technical pursuit of glass is something that's endlessly challenging and really exciting to me. And I'm excited to, teach my students about. From a facilities perspective, a glass facility is such a precious thing. It's not something you have access to everywhere. So even for students that aren't majoring in this discipline, having access to this facility is a really great, just a really great resource for them. We're the only degree granting glass program in Michigan, actually. And so what our shop is able to facilitate even more use than we have. So we have 4 glory hole stations for people to blow glass, 2 500-pound clear furnaces and a color furnace, which is really unique for an educational institution. Right now we're melting black glass. It's really exciting. We just have a ton of casting and fusing kilns. We have never run out of space in those kilns of all sizes, including a really enormous car kiln where you could make essentially a large table. And we have a very adequate cold shop, as well as studio space for our students. And I think we have that in all our programs. That's really unique for undergrad, for students to be able to spread out, have a studio space that's dedicated to their work. So like some of the other faculty, I wanted to talk a little bit about the program through the lens of student work. This is a student, Yasmin Dababna. I put her Instagram handle. Well, we put everyone's Instagram handles up because I think if you want a deeper look into what students are doing, they do a great job documenting that actually on their accounts. And I think for a prospective student, it gives you the opportunity to see the multiple iterations. The images that we're showing you is just a small slice of all the work and process work that they do to get to this point. But Yaz, this is some explorations from her sophomore year. And what you can see here is that she's working on technique and material exploration, just kind of learning to make things and experimenting with color and seeing how the material functions in different ways, looking at different formats and installation here in a sort of unconventional sculptural vessel format here. And as she moved on into her senior year, she started to make works that was more ambitious in both size and scope. So here she's creating sculpture that's looking at a sort of edge treatment that reflects through the glass, making a really kind of large glued piece, which is quite difficult to do. But you can see she's also moving into thinking about ideas of interaction and lighting. She made this small table light in her lighting course, and then made this really large immersive piece called Portal in the glass installation course. There's actually no glass in the piece, but it's looking at different types of glassy concerns about color and light transmission and immersion. And it was a really successful piece in that show. And so her study of glass has really informed how she treats other materials and how she thinks through not only glass, but light and interaction. Now in her senior year, she's using the material in a variety of different ways. Here she's made a light that actually spins and creates different types of shadows on the front and back face of the light. Again, a sort of interactive piece. And you can see this format here that she's created in the glass. She's using here again to create a surface essentially for a video projection for an immersive piece. So she's still at the beginning of her year and still developing this work, but I think it's really exciting for me to look at the evolution of work and the evolution of thinking and the way that materials begin to inform ideas in all media, but is still very, very grounded in the material specific pursuit of glass. And so with that, I'm going to hand it off to Tom Madden.
Well, hello, everyone, and thank you again for being with us tonight. This is really a wonderful opportunity to share with you what we're excited about within our programs. Again, my name is Tom Madden. I'm the section head for metalsmithing and jewelry, and metalsmithing and jewelry at CCS is a very broad-based program of technical proficiencies. We offer both jewelry and casting and fabrication. We also have a tremendous course in, or students working in hollowware, taking flat materials and raising those into three-dimensional structures. We're one of a handful of programs nationally that offer a curriculum in blacksmithing. So students have the opportunity to expand their own technical vocabulary, to hone in on an area that they are excited about and that they want to, that they see themselves developing into their own professional practice. The blacksmithing shop, as you can see, is exceedingly well outfitted for doing hot forged ironwork, and combine that with non-ferrous materials, as well as working with other programs within the department. Go ahead and move me on. So I want to highlight one of our seniors, Brian Reese. He came to CCS with an interest in metalsmithing and jewelry. We start off by teaching technical skills, proficiencies, manipulating materials, and exploring forging and hollowware processes. The junior year, he's focused on form development, again, exploring technical as well as how three-dimensional elements can work together. And within his senior year, he's continuing with the vessel structure, doing hollow forms, and you're going to have to continue.
Great, thank you so much. And then lastly, we're going to go to Brooke Breckner, who's going to tell us a little bit about our digital fabrication.
Hello, my name is Brooke Breckner. I'm the Craft Studio and Technology Manager and Digital Fabrication faculty. I'm going to tell you a little bit about our digital fabrication minor. The purpose of this program is to provide a path for students to integrate digital fabrication technology into their making practice. This is an interdisciplinary minor administered by the Craft and Material Studies Department. The digital fabrication minor empowers students to develop innovative methods of making by giving them the tools and knowledge to go beyond traditional processes and technologies. With informed use of digital design and fabrication tools, students of all areas are able to incorporate these skills into their hands-on studio practice. Some of the equipment we have right within the craft studio areas include CNC routers specifically for carving craft-related materials like plaster and graphite. We have 3D printers that print in clay, plastics, and castable resins. We also have laser cutters, vinyl cutters, and a ceramic decal printer. You can go to the next slide. Also at students' disposal is the Taubman Digital Fabrication Lab and Facility, which features multiple state-of-the-art 3D printers, 5-axis CNCs with 5-foot by 10-foot carving areas, and an additional large format laser cutter. Here's some work by one of our students, Phoenix Eller. They began by 3D modeling their design to be printed on our castable resin 3D printer. From there, the process returned to traditional silver casting and metal smithing techniques, including stone setting. Some other common applications of these tools include ceramic students using the ShopBot CNC to carve plaster for molds, for processes like slip casting, or glass students using our X-Carve CNC to carve their designs into graphite for glass casting and other hot glass working techniques. The possibilities are truly endless and can be whatever you make it or whatever you make with it.
Cool, thank you. Okay, so that concludes our craft presentation. I'm going to turn it back over to April to talk a little bit about admissions, and then we'll have some time for Q&A. So April, I'll give you the floor.
Okay, so, all right, cool. We have this right here. Well, what I'm going to do, Kim, do you mind if you unshare your screen? I can just quickly share mine, because what I'll just do is share with everyone where you can go onto our website. Let me pull it up really quick to apply. So if you are interested in applying to CCS, you can just go here. Everyone can see this, correct? Yes, okay. So on our website, you can just go to admissions, and then you click on the undergrad admissions, and it'll take you right here. And it gives you a nice little overview of where you can, all of our admissions requirements, all of our deadlines. You can apply now here, submit your high school and or college transcripts, and then uploading your portfolio right here as well. So I can copy and paste this link into the chat box, so you all can see where you can apply if you haven't applied yet. I'm going to stop sharing right now and put that link into the chat box. I'm also going to stop the recording. So if you want to turn on your